probably the reason I'm so passionate about helping people understand human design through this lens of the other is because it feels, the world feels so impatient to me. You know, it's something I've really struggled with over the past 3 or 4 years as I've really leaned into my design of just being like, I can't give you an answer for that right now. Sorry.
Wow. No, that makes sense.
Even when like we were talking about, you know, when we were ideating this podcast and like, you know, we should get a reading, and like I appreciated how you sat with that. Like, let me feel into this. Let me think about, you know, feel into this.
Yeah.
Or I thought that was a very interesting response, and I respected the heck out of it. I thought that was cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because, you know, my heart's like, I love Jen. Of course I want to do,
Sure.
you know, but I've learned over time that the invitations that I accept are really important, and it's a big energy, you know, usage for me. And so if it's the right invitation, then it's going to increase my abundance and the abundance of the people around me, because my aura is magnifying everything that we're doing here.
Yeah.
And if it's the wrong invitation, then not only am I draining myself, but I'm draining you guys too.
Sure.
Right?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
That's great. Are there specific design profiles or types that are more inclined towards certain industries or professions? And maybe how can individuals leverage those unique designs to thrive in their chosen field? So how does that kind of align that you've seen?
So I will say that as far as professions go, you can see a pretty wide range of types in every profession. What I have started noticing is that there are certain channels that are drawn to certain industries. So the two of you share a channel, and it's called the channel of mating in traditional human design, which is funny. It's just talking about generative energy. Everything in human design, traditional human design, has like very like names that are like meant to like spark a reaction, because that was the creator of human design. Like he was like wanted to spark a reaction.
Oh, really?
Right? Yeah. So it's called the channel of mating, but it's really about creation. And so when I see that channel, I almost always am like, oh, this person they're creating something new in the world. If I see that channel, like you're a creator, like you are creating a new business, a new idea, a new model, something new. So it's less about type than it is about the actual channels, is where I really see more of an indication of the type of profession that someone might have.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then I will also say that there are a lot of clergy people who are reflectors and projectors.
Wow.
And I think it's because that slower pace of life. I actually was studying to be a nun for quite some time. And it was that slower pace of life was very attractive to me, like being able to kind of withdraw and you know, not have to be part of the world, which is so generator energy.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I have to share that I've always had this like thing in the back of my head that if I were, I'm not saying, I'm not even putting this out there in the universe, but let's just say I am old, I'm by myself, I would probably devote my life to a Buddhist monastery or something. And that goes against every single thing probably that I might be about as a generator, needing to be in like, you know, noise and busyness and, you know, thriving in that environment. So maybe that's not the right choice for me. And I also don't believe that I'm going to end up alone by myself.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No.
Yeah. Okay. No, I think honestly though, we have echoes of other lives and other timelines. And I think when people are really drawn to certain lineages, oftentimes your consciousness is enjoying an experience in a timeline where you're doing that. So
that's got to be it then, because I've been collecting Buddhists since I was a really young person.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you have a Buddhist background as well. Yeah. Yeah.
We found each other again,
that.
buddy.
I know.
All right.
I know we know that.
Good job.
Yeah.
So how can people then use human design to better understand their strengths and their weaknesses and make decisions that align with their authentic selves?
Yeah. So the most important thing I would say is understanding how your aura behaves in the environment, which is your type. So if you're a generator, you're here to respond to what's happening in the environment. If you're not offering invitations to your projector friends, they don't get to play. So, so it's
That's
for
just-
it's the interpersonal piece of this that I think creates success with human design. So when you understand what you need, you can advocate for that. And when you understand what the people that you're working with need, now you know how to fill that need. So I'd say first and foremost, that's where I see a lot of success in teams who use human design, is just knowing how to fill in those gaps for each other. On a personal level, I would say knowing what your authority is. So, Jen, you're a splenic authority, you're an emotional authority. Knowing your authority, because that's going to be your decision-making barometer. So some of us are designed to take a long time to make decisions. We need to know how to advocate for that in business. Some of us are designed to make spontaneous decisions and trust them and just go with it. Some of us are meant to not wait a long time, but kind of look at things, get a little strategy behind the decision before we make it, right? So knowing your authority, like what is the authoritative energy in your unique auric field is also pivotal, I think, for having success in a business space, or really any space. But
Interesting.
Yeah, in life.
Yes.
But it makes so much sense for me, just being like, it's second. Like, I know, I already know that it's right or it's just not right.
yeah.
It's really hard to explain that to my parents, who were pretty much probably terrified of how bold and like fearless I move through things. So, yeah.
I can see that.
Makes sense.
I mean, I'm always, anytime I'm around a splenic person and I can just feel that energy coming through me, I'm like, is this what it's like? You open the fridge and you know what you want to eat? That's wild.
Yes.
What are some common misconceptions or myths about human design and that you encounter? And could you shed some light on those to help us understand the truth behind them?
Yeah. This is my favorite soapbox.
Okay.
So
Here we go.
Preach.
The first thing is that human design has sort of slipped under the edge of responsibility and ownership for appropriation. People tend to think that human design that we don't need to discuss appropriation because it was a thing created much later. However, it's based on traditions that are not white in any way, shape, or form, that predate Western culture. And so one of the things that I see right now that I think is a huge misconception is that work does not need to be applied to human design. And I see a lot of bypassing around that, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, just a reminder to anybody listening, like, we would not have human design if we did not have the I Ching, which is one of the oldest forms of divination out of China. It's a holistic system. They use it for everything.
Right.
Ayurveda, astrology, both Hellenistic and Vedic in this sense. So all of these things are truly not coming from white Westerners, and they make up human design. So human design needs to be deappropriated and used with discernment the same way that any of these traditions would be. So that's a big thing.
How can we be better about, what can we do to be better?
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is education. Like, education is elevation. Conscious Lee says that all the time. He's one of my favorite creators. And this is no different. Understand that when you're doing human design, you're actually using astrology, I Ching, Hindu beliefs feed into this hugely because we use the chakra system. Yep. So just educating yourself on what are the origins of these pieces, where did they originate, and how are they used by those cultures?
Maybe paying homage to them.
To those, yeah.
Yeah.
Call it out, man. Like, people talk about lines in astrology and nobody talks about the fact those lines are based on the I Ching. Like, they're not lines, they're hexagrams from the I Ching, right?
Yeah.
So even just, I think that awareness is taking it to a whole new level.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're the first person I've actually ever heard say that about human design and really astrology. I mean, it's quoted so often, it's shared. I mean, and social media, as a social media agency, as yogis. I mean, I'm sure I know I follow a lot of creators that are, working in this type of field, and no one has ever said anything about the appropriation of this material. So thank you for being the first.
Yeah, of course. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for giving that space to breathe, because it's something I'm obviously very passionate about.